Yo guys, what's up? It's your boy Vert. We are back with another video. Today we're going over everything Awakened for Guardian. We're gonna do the skill add-ons, some PvE combos, some PvP combos, and a skill build for those of you that don't have all the skill points to necessarily pick up everything that you might want right away. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Light it up.
Alright guys, the first thing we're going to cover is going to be the skill add-ons for Guardian's Awakening. The first one I picked up was God Incinerator, and I got 25 monster attack on that for 8 seconds. And then I also got PvP attack plus 10 for 5 seconds. I picked up the monster damage just to have a solid all-around PvE combo, seeing how it's on a low cooldown and you'll use it in almost every pack. Next up we have Cleansing Flame. I got PvP attack plus 10 for 5 seconds and DP plus 15 for 10 seconds on that. The last one we picked up is Fireborn Rupture. This is going to be a very low cooldown skill, and it can be chained after almost every skill as well. It's going to have PvP attack plus 5 for 5 seconds and attack speed plus 4% for 5 seconds. This attack speed buff is very important because it stacks with all of your other attack speed buffs from Z buff, E buff, and also your down LMB. So this is very important for comboing, seeing how Guardian has rather slow abilities in general. Alright guys, next we're going to talk about the skill priority for your Awakening, and also the few skills that you should hold on from your pre-Awakening if you're short on skill points. First up, I'd recommend your Shift F. I'd recommend Shift RMB, Shift Q, and also Fireborn Rupture, which is going to be your space, or you can use it off hotbar, which I would recommend. All of these skills are going to give nice buffs and incredible damage for PvE, as well as allow you to fight people off who might come into your grind spot. Now for pre-Awakening, I recommend keeping Fierce Disdain. Rock Slide is good for movement, but not necessarily priority. Avalanche Strike, your Shift LMB, is still very strong from pre-Awakening and flows nicely with your comboing from Awakening. Sturdy Step just for the movement is very good still. And then your Shift Q in pre-Awakening just for the health back, as well as the Evasion Shred, is very strong for both PvE and PvP. Now, after picking up those skills, if you still have some skill points to mess around with, I'd recommend picking up as many points as you can in down LMB due to the 20% attack speed buff for 10 seconds. Really good to start your combos off with this skill in order to get out damage much faster. Picking up the Flow Suppress will go nicely with your Shift RMB. It's the flow at the end. Incredible damage, 100% crit rate in PvE, good accuracy and super armor so you won't get interrupted in History and Akhman. Also, a couple more skills you can pick up in your pre-Awakening would be your Forward RMB. This still has an incredible amount of damage. It has an AP shred and its super armor, which will keep you safe. Getting the flow for your Shift Q in pre-Awakening is very important. And then also make sure you have your passive maxed as high as you can, and you could pick up Skilled Hunter for the increased monster damage. If you guys are looking to save a few skill points in Awakening, I'd recommend not picking up your down RMB. This doesn't really provide a lot of damage or safety in PvE or PvP, so it's just overall not a very useful skill at the moment. I also didn't pick up Infernal Steps, which is just your RMB. Seems pretty slow, it knocks the mobs around, making them harder to group up and kill, so not something I'd recommend. And then Scalding Thorn can be decent if you want to CC the mobs and get the stun, but the damage is mediocre and the skill overall isn't a priority. Something that'll help your PvE grind a ton is keeping up your buffs. Your buffs are going to come from Fireborn Rupture, ARD RMB for the attack speed, the accuracy from Shift F or on your hotbar if you want it there. SLMB is going to give you that huge attack speed steroid of 20%, and then also just absorbing your Black Spirit Rage every time it's up for that buff as well. Alright guys, next up we're going to cover some basic PvE combos for Guardian with its Awakening. These are combos that use at places like Histria, Sukraya, Akhman, and I'm sure they could be used at almost every grind spot in the game. So I start off with Shift F or Cleansing Flame. I usually use it off my hotbar. And then I go into SLMB, the spacebar flow, into Shift Q. Then I'll reposition behind the mob to do Shift R and B and then the flow. It's a very simple combo, a lot of damage, and works at almost any grind spot. Another little tip or trick if you're not one-shotting the mobs or you're waiting for the mobs to group buff, I usually will pre-buff with the spacebar flow, Fireborn Rupture. I use it off hotbar, which is my 2. So I usually pre-buff, and then I'll hold Shift L and B while waiting for the mobs to group, and then I'll release it, and then I'll go into the longer PV combo that we talked about before. A question I've been getting a lot on the stream is, Vert, how do you swap into pre-awakening? Vert, how do you get back into awakening? How do you get back into pre-awakening? How do you get into awakening? Over and over and over again. So we're going to add that to this video today. So from awakening to pre-awakening, the most common way to swap is just use Fierce Disdain, which is A or D, R and B. Just gonna be a nice little side shuffle right there, puts you in pre-awakening. It's an iframe and a super armor, so you should be protected the entire time. Another way to swap from awakening into pre-awakening is using your rock slide on the hotbar. That's just gonna look like this. You can hit space for multiple jumps, and that's gonna put you in pre-awakening as well. Now, going the other way from pre-awakening into awakening, this is where basically all of your hotbars come into use. So you can use Fireborn Rupture. The next one is going to be your Shift F or Cleansing Flame off the hotbar. It's going to put you into awakening. The last one that I use off my hotbar is going to be God Incinerator or your Shift Q. That's just going to look like this. And then one of the safest and easiest ways to get into awakening is either A, D, S, or Shift while in pre-awakening. And that's just going to be a little hop. It's going to put you into awakening, and it's going to be an iframe. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this guide on the Guardian Awakening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helps you guys out in the battlefield and in the Histria caves or wherever you might be grinding. If you guys have any other questions or comments regarding Guardian, make sure you leave them down below. Hit that like button, make sure you subscribe. And until next time, I'm out. Peace!